I didn't hear the scream. I felt it. It vibrated through the metal railing of the old bridge. The kind of sound that doesn't come from fear, but from someone realizing their entire life is collapsing in real time. For a moment, I thought it came from somewhere below the water. Only when I looked down did I recognize the voice. My own. I stood frozen on the edge of the bridge, rain slashing sideways, my breath tearing from my lungs as the truth replayed again and again. The truth I had heard only minutes earlier through the door of a hotel room I should never have been near. They wanted me gone. Not metaphorically. Not emotionally. Gone. Erased. Up until that night, I would have laughed at the idea. My life was stable, predictable, even enviable. A thriving company. A clear retirement plan. A marriage everyone else believed was built on trust and devotion. And for the longest time, I believed it too. But betrayal doesn't always start with obvious signs. Sometimes it begins with a whisper, a shift in tone, a glance that lasts too long or not long enough. I ignored them all. I believed what I wanted to believe. Then everything changed. 12 hours earlier, I had woken up thinking my biggest problem was renegotiating a contract. I didn't know my entire world was already burning behind my back. I didn't know that the people closest to me, the woman I loved and the man I trusted like a brother, had spent years weaving a web designed to tighten around my throat. I didn't know that the missing money, the vanishing clients, the quiet tension in the house, all of it was part of the same design. I certainly didn't know that by the end of the night, I'd be standing on a rain-soaked bridge, gasping for air, trying not to break apart. But the moment I heard their voices through the door of hotel room 917, everything snapped into focus. I hadn't gone there to catch them. Not really. I had gone because I needed answers, proof that my paranoia wasn't paranoia at all. Proof that Christina hadn't simply drifted away from me. Proof that Mark's conveniently timed investment offer wasn't just business. I followed her because I had run out of excuses to tell myself. And standing outside that room, hearing her laugh, that soft, warm laugh that used to be mine, I realized the truth was far darker than anything I had imagined. It wasn't just an affair. It was a plan. A plan with my name at the center of it, marked in red. A plan that required me to disappear. And as I stood on that bridge, soaked, shaking, staring at the reflection of the city lights trembling in the river below, one thought hit me harder than the betrayal. If I didn't move fast, if I didn't outsmart them, if I didn't stay 2 steps ahead, I wasn't going to survive what they had set in motion. By the time I stepped away from the bridge and forced myself back into the car, my pulse had finally slowed enough for me to think again. Not clearly, clarity was a luxury I no longer had, but enough to remember how this all began, days before the hotel, before the recording, before everything shattered. Back then, nothing seemed dangerous, just off. Elias, that was the name I carried before all of this changed me, had spent 20 years building his company brick by brick, turning a small consulting firm into a multimillion-dollar giant. I was proud of it, proud enough to ignore every warning sign that followed. The first sign was small, a client backing out of a major deal without explanation. Then another, numbers on the balance sheet shifting in ways they shouldn't. Money that should have been there, gone. Moved quietly, surgically. I blamed stress, market fluctuations, bad timing. I didn't blame Cassidy, my wife, not then. Not even when she began coming home later and later, claiming charity meetings she barely bothered to describe. Not when she guarded her phone like it held state secrets. Not when she began smiling at messages she wouldn't let me see. 20 years of love can blind even the sharpest mind. Even when her son, Alex, came home one weekend and asked, "Is Mom okay? She barely talks to me anymore." I brushed it off. I kept brushing everything off. Until the day Lorenzo walked into my office. A stranger in an expensive suit, hair silvered, expression carved out of stone. He sat across from me like a man who had come not to offer help but to deliver a warning. "You don't know me," he said, "but I know your wife." My breath caught, but he didn't stop. We used to do business together. What he called business, I later learned, was a polite word for the kind of work that leaves people bankrupt, ruined, or quietly erased. And Cassidy, my devoted wife, had been part of it. I'm not here to cause trouble, he continued. I'm here because when people like your wife start changing suddenly, there's always a reason, and it's never good. He didn't elaborate. He didn't have to. He stood, buttoned his coat, and left with a single final message. Watch your accounts, and watch your back. I should have listened sooner. I should have put the pieces together. But 20 years of marriage doesn't prepare a man to believe that the woman sleeping beside him is tightening a noose he cannot see. Still, things escalated quickly. Cassidy became bolder in her secrecy. Her laughter, once warm, turned into a distant sound she saved for someone else. Her late meetings became habitual. Her indifference to my financial crisis grew more obvious with each passing day. Then came the night I woke at 2:17 a.m. and saw she wasn't beside me. I followed the faint glow downstairs and found her at the front door, fully dressed, whispering urgently into her phone, the words too soft to make out. And then she slipped into a waiting black car, the kind people use when they want to remain unseen. I stood frozen, watching the taillights vanish into the dark. That was the moment I accepted the truth. My marriage wasn't failing. It was being dismantled, piece by piece, by the two people I trusted most. And when I finally discovered where those late-night meetings were happening, the hotel, room 917, I didn't go there out of jealousy. I went there because I needed the truth. I just didn't know how much it would cost me. I told myself I wasn't following her. I told myself I just needed clarity, answers that would finally quiet the storm chewing through my mind. But the truth is simpler. A man who senses danger will always move toward it if the alternative is madness. So when Cassidy left the house that evening in a dress too elegant for any charity event, I waited exactly 5 minutes before grabbing my keys and slipping into my car. I kept 3 cars between us the entire way, watching her taillights weave through the city until she finally turned into the glowing parking lot of the Arden Hotel. Not a restaurant, not a conference hall, a hotel. My heartbeat didn't spike, crashed. I parked far enough not to be noticed. Through the windshield, I saw her fix her hair, check her lipstick, and step into the lobby with a nervous excitement she hadn't shown around me in months, maybe years. Her reflection vanished behind the glass doors. 60 seconds later, another car pulled up, and when the headlights shut off, when the driver stepped out, everything inside me went cold. I recognized him instantly. Logan, my closest friend, my business partner, the man who once swore he would take a bullet for me. He walked into the hotel with the calm confidence of someone who knew exactly where he was going and who would be waiting for him. I stayed in the shadows, watched them disappear into the elevator together, watched their silhouettes lean in too close, too familiar, watched her hand brush his chest with ease. Then Logan took a keycard from the front desk. Room 917. My throat tightened around the number. My legs moved before my mind did, pushing me into the lobby, across the polished marble floor, toward the desk. Checking in? The clerk asked politely. No, I said, forcing a weary smile. My wife just went up. She forgot our room number. The clerk didn't even blink. Room 917. I nodded, thanked him, and walked toward the elevators with steps that felt like they belonged to someone else entirely. On the 9th floor, everything was quiet. Too quiet. The carpet muted my footsteps as I approached the door, the gold numbers glowing faintly under the corridor lights. I pressed my ear to the wood. First, I heard laughter, hers, a soft, melodic sound I hadn't heard directed at me in months. Then I heard Logan's voice. Then the rustle of movement. I expected heartbreak. I expected rage. I expected the kind of pain that cracks a man open. What I heard instead froze my blood. Cassidy's voice lowered, sharp and calculating. If he doesn't sign those documents, we move to the final phase. Logan let out a low chuckle. He'll sign, but even if he doesn't, accidents happen. Silence. Then her voice, softer, velvet-wrapped poison. No loose ends. You know that. My hand slipped from the doorknob. They weren't just betraying me. They weren't just stealing from me. They weren't just building a life behind my back. They were planning to remove me from theirs, permanently. My mind spun, but my body knew what to do. I stepped away, forced my breathing steady, forced my expression neutral, forced myself to walk to the elevator like a man who hadn't just overheard his own murder being planned. Because the truth hit me all at once. I had been so busy questioning whether my marriage was falling apart. I hadn't realized my life was on the line. And if I confronted them now on that floor in that moment, I wouldn't walk out of the hotel alive. So I left, not because I was afraid, but because I finally understood the rules of the game they had been setting up for years. And now that I knew the truth, everything, my company, my family, my future, depended on one thing: staying alive long enough to expose them. By the time I reached my car, the night felt different. Not colder, not darker, just sharper, like the air itself understood something had shifted, and survival now depended on how quietly I could move. I sat behind the wheel for nearly a minute, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white, replaying every word I'd heard behind that door. Final phase. Accidents happen. No loose ends. My wife and my best friend had been speaking about me the way people discuss a broken appliance. Something to be replaced, discarded, removed from sight. But I didn't go home to rage, or collapse, or scream into the emptiness of a house no longer mine. I went home to plan, because now that I finally understood the truth, I had one advantage they didn't expect. I wasn't dead yet, and I wasn't planning to die quietly. The next morning, Cassidy was already in the kitchen when I came downstairs. She looked soft and warm in the morning light, pouring coffee like she hadn't spent the previous night plotting my disappearance. She smiled over her shoulder. "Didn't hear you come to bed last night." I kept my voice even. "Stayed up working." A lie for a lie. She moved closer, brushing her fingers along my arm. The same fingers that had slid over Logan's collarbone hours earlier. The same fingers that had signed off on stolen funds I still hadn't fully traced. "You look tired," she murmured. "I've had a lot on my mind." She tilted her head, studying me with careful calculation. Not concern, just analysis. Like someone checking whether a door was locked or still easily broken into. "Tonight," she said softly, "we should talk. Maybe go out. Reconnect." She meant, let me keep you predictable. I only nodded. Sure. Inside, my pulse thudded like a warning drum. She wasn't trying to win me back. She was trying to keep me blind. I spent the rest of the day preparing. Every document I'd ignored before I studied. Every missing dollar I tracked. Every unexplained transaction. I followed to shadow accounts tied to shell foundations Cassidy swore were for charity projects. But charity didn't require offshore banks, or encrypted transfers, or the signature of a man who wasn't me. Logan. He wasn't just part of the betrayal. He was the architect. By evening, I had enough proof to know one thing for sure. They had been planning this for years. Not months. Years. Slowly bleeding my company, making me look careless, unstable, irresponsible. Setting the stage for the finale. My financial collapse, followed by a tragic suicide. A suicide they planned to manufacture. And I realized something horrifying. If I hadn't followed her last night, I might not have had more than a week left. Cassidy came home at sunset, smelling of expensive perfume and impatience. She leaned against the doorway, studying me with an air of casual familiarity she no longer had the right to claim. "Dinner tonight," she reminded me. "Logan's joining. We need to discuss his investment proposal." The sentence hung between us like a loaded gun. She wasn't inviting him. She was placing him, positioning him exactly where she wanted him. In my home, in my space, in the final stage of their plan. I offered a tired smile. Perfect. Her eyes softened with satisfaction, because she thought I was walking straight into the trap. She didn't know the truth. I was setting one of my own. When Alex texted me asking if he could join us for dinner, I hesitated. Protect him. Hide everything. Keep him out of it. That's what a father should do. But that's not what a father does when the danger lives inside the walls of the home, wearing his wife's face. "Come at 7, I replied, because the truth had to be seen, not told. And tonight, for the first time, they were going to expose themselves. Not because they slipped, but because I was finally ready to push back. As I set the table, 3 plates for them, 1 for Alex, none for myself. I thought of the bridge again, the way my breath had echoed in my ears, how close I'd been to breaking apart. I wasn't breaking now. I wasn't shaking. I wasn't afraid. I was ready. Tonight, the masks would fall. And once they did, there would be no going back. Logan arrived right on time. That was the thing about him, consistency. He'd built a reputation on it. When he shook your hand, you believed him. When he promised you something, you never thought to check twice. When he smiled, you assumed it was genuine. That's how men like him survive. By hiding their fangs behind reliability. He stepped into the house like he owned it. A bottle of wine in one hand and that practiced, warm smile on his face. "Elias," he said, gripping my shoulder as if we were still brothers. "Good to see you." I let him. Cassidy floated behind him, her perfume filling the air. Her lips curved in a soft, inviting smile. A smile she had used many times on me and more recently on him. "Let's have a nice evening," she said. Translated, "Let's make sure you don't see what's coming." Alex arrived moments later, his backpack slung over one shoulder, his expression curious but tense. He hugged his mother, lightly, then nodded at Logan with forced politeness. When he looked at me, though I saw it, he sensed something. He didn't know what, but he felt the storm. "Dinner's ready," I said. "Let's sit." It began as any normal meal would. Small talk, forced laughter, compliments about the food. Cassidy leaned into Logan every time she spoke. Logan touched her wrist once, lightly. She didn't pull away. Alex noticed. His jaw tightened. He said nothing. I watched, waited, timed every breath. Because it wasn't the pasta or the wine that mattered. It was the truth sitting coiled under the table, waiting for the moment I chose to release it. When the plates were half empty, when Cassidy relaxed, when Logan settled into the comfort of his own arrogance. I pressed the button on my phone. The speakers on the table clicked softly. At first, they didn't recognize the sound. Then they heard their own voices. Her laugh, his whisper, their plan. Room 917. If he doesn't sign the documents, we move to the final phase. Accidents happen. No loose ends. The room froze. Cassidy's face went white. All color drained as if someone had pulled the life out of her. Logan stopped chewing, fork suspended midair. Alex stared at them both, unblinking, waiting for someone to say something. Anything. Cassidy tried first. "Elias. This isn't what it sounds like." "There's a proper context," Logan added quickly. I laughed once, quietly. "You're right. There is." I slid the folder across the table: bank statements, offshore transfers, forged signatures, siphoned funds, the blueprint of a multi-year scheme. Every page a nail in the coffin of their lies. "This," I said calmly, "is the context." Cassidy reached for Alex. He stepped back like she was a stranger. Logan tried to stand, but Alex shoved him back into his seat. And that's when everything broke. The mask slipped. Logan's eyes went cold, predatory, calculating. He reached into his jacket too fast. I moved back. Alex reacted first. The knife flashed. Not a kitchen knife, but a hunting blade, polished and ready. Logan lunged. Chairs crashed. Alex threw himself into Logan's path, tackling him into the glass cabinet behind us. Shelves shattered, shards flying across the room. Cassidy screamed. Not for me, but for Logan. "Stop! You're ruining everything." Logan slashed wildly, catching my arm as I dodged. Pain shot through me. Blood soaked the fabric instantly. Alex grabbed Logan again, forcing the blade from his hand. Clattered across the floor. Kicked it away. Logan roared, actually roared, and tried to reach for it. Alex held him, pinned him down. Cassidy backed into the wall, trembling, eyes darting to the door, calculating whether she could run, whether Logan could still salvage their plan. She didn't realize it was already over. Sirens wailed outside. I triggered the security system 10 minutes before dinner started. The police were already on the porch when Logan broke. Officers stormed in, dragging him away, still screaming about what I owed him, about how none of this was supposed to happen. Cassidy didn't fight. She didn't cry. She just stared at the floor with a blank, hollow stare. Alex sank into a chair, shaking, blood on his hands. Mine, not his. Dad, what was all of this? I put a hand on his shoulder. The truth, I said. And it ends tonight. Weeks passed, then months. Logan confessed. Everything. Cassidy's voice recordings, the financial evidence, the attempted murder. All of it formed a case even the best lawyer couldn't twist. Logan took a plea deal to save himself. Cassidy's trial destroyed what little remained of her reputation. Their shared apartment was uncovered. The fake charity unraveled. The suicide note draft they had written for me became the final nail in the coffin of their defense. Alex moved in with me. We started rebuilding. The house was sold. The company was salvaged. The wounds, physical and emotional, slowly began to close. But something in me stayed different. The man I was trusting, steady, certain of the world, died in that hotel hallway before I ever opened the door. The man who survived. He learned to see in the dark. And he never forgot what it cost.